being here today. Today is the fourth Sunday of Easter. This, as we know, is Advent that leads up to Easter. And this is Advent that leads up to Christmas. Okay. And this is Lent that leads up to Easter. And here we are at Eastertide. And this is the fourth Sunday of Easter. The disciples today are knowing Jesus in a new way. This is the fourth Sunday that the disciples have struggled with knowing Jesus in a new way. And this Sunday, Jesus told the disciples to go to Galilee, and they did. They walked to Galilee, and it was like 80 miles to get there. And so it took them about 4 days. And when they got to Galilee, so many of them were fishermen, had grown up as fishermen. They'd gone fishing with their fathers. So when they got to the Sea of Galilee, they felt like they were at home. And Peter said, "I'm going fishing." And so they all joined him, and they got into a boat, and they pushed the boat out into the water, and they lifted the sails up, and the wind took the sails, and they went out into the water. And they fished all night. And it was dark, and they caught no fish. So then the light began to happen. The sky turned pink, and then the sky turned blue. And then they looked toward the shore. And on the shoreline, they saw a man. And he was standing next to a fire, and they could see the glowing red embers, the coals, and they could see the smoke coming up out of the fire. And the man said, "Did you catch any fish?" And they said, "No." And he said, "Well, throw your nets over on the other side of the boat." And the guys in the boat said, "Well, that's probably not going to make any difference, but it won't hurt anything. We'll try anyway." And they threw their nets on the other side of the boat. And as soon as their nets got into the water, they could feel the fish filling up the nets. They could feel it because of the tug on the rope. And John stood up in the boat, and he looked at the man on the shore, and he said, "It is the Lord." And then Peter stood up, and of course, as only Peter can, he jumped into the water, and he swam to the shore. He found the sand, and he walked into the man on the shore. And everybody else stayed in the boat, but they went towards the shore. They were going into the shore, and the nets were so heavy that they couldn't bring them into the boat, so they had to drag them along behind them. When they got into the shore, they still weren't sure who this stranger was on the shore. But the stranger said, "Bring your fish with you." And they did. And they stood around the fire. And at that time, they knew who it was. It was Jesus in their midst. And he said, "Let's have breakfast." And they cooked the fish. He gave them the cooked fish. He gave them the bread. And this felt like home to them also. And then Jesus said to Peter, "Do you love me?" And Peter said, "Yes." And Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." "Do you love me?" Peter said, "Yes." "Tend my sheep." "Do you love me?" "Yes, you know I do, Lord." "Feed my sheep." And then Peter and Jesus walked along the shore, and they talked as they walked. And Jesus told Peter that growing old was not easy. and that when you were old, sometimes people told you what to do. And Peter didn't really know what to make about this. And as he told people later, people thought, well, maybe Jesus was preparing him for when he was old and would die. Peter looked behind him at that time, and he saw John kind of following behind them, and he said to Jesus, "What will happen to this man?" And Jesus said, "It is not for you to know." And then Jesus disappeared. And that's how there's such a mystery, it seems to me, about Jesus and his disciples and how they related to each other. And that's what we think of on this, the fourth Sunday, where Jesus is new to his disciples. Now I wonder if there's anything in this room that reminds you of this story. I don't know what you might find, but this is what reminds me, the sheep of this story, because Jesus told Peter to take care of his sheep. I wonder if there's anything at your house that you might find that reminds you of this story. And I wonder if there's anything you want to do, any kind of work at your home about this story. Thank you for being here with me.
Carry